How are you doing? So, been here for a while, and I'm sitting here, and I was walking down the street. Look, I know I'm pretty in the face. All right, so I'm sitting down at this store. I'm sitting out at the bench in the store, and I just having a drink. I'm just looking around casually, and I see this 14-year-old. Like, I'm not saying she's actually 14, but I'm like the way she looks, she couldn't be older than 14. And I'm sitting there looking like, why are you looking at me staring like you want to do something? Because you have no business looking at my face. Mind you, I'm 34. I just turned 34 last month. So I know the pedo subject has been a big thing all year. But it's been going on for a pretty long time. And I kind of find it disingenuous of some YouTubers to talk about this now, but it's a subject for a lot of people to make money on. But as a child sex slave survivor, let me tell you, I could have easily, if you don't take time to work your shit out, you could have easily gone the R. Kelly route. That you just go out and hump anything with a vagina. Like, I'm just being for real, straight as can be out there, right? Now, I'm not saying that in the situations of some of these artists, celebrities, YouTubers, whatever you want to call it, that some of this shit ain't genuinely scary. But at the other side, I'm thinking about, well, what is it in society that we tell these younger girls and boys, because it applies to both, all right? What is it with us manipulating these children, exploiting them to go for these older people and be mad when they actually do it? I'm by no means defending any of this shit, but I was planning on doing a very large video about this entire subject, shutting all of that shit down as quickly as it appeared. However, I am recording on a very good phone, but with very little memory, so I'm gonna have to dial it down to a few part series. It might actually end up being 13 parts because I have a lot of shit to say about this subject. But one of the things especially is the manipulation of these young children, forcing them to be attracted and buying stuff of, older people, men and women. All right. I mean, you can talk about Al Pacino getting a 27-year-old pregnant at 87, but is it really okay for a 15-year-old to be attracted to a 47-year-old woman? See, these are some of the things that people don't want to be talking about. And I say, well, if we're going to tackle this subject, like, at least let's look at it from all sides, right? Because we want to say it's disgusting when a man does that to a woman, but when a woman does that to a man, which has happened plenty of times, me personally included in that subject, where, we go about this subject kind of a one-sided view, because in all aspects, because meanwhile we're targeting these celebrities and musicians and YouTube streamers, and meanwhile we let our politicians and our billionaires continue on the same way. Bill Clinton flew with Epstein, 58 times? These politicians who endorse all that shit have been doing it for months. Even England, they pardoned, all right, a royal pedophile. But because he so happened to be of a royal family, they pardoned him. They literally give a child molester, a child rapist, a child molester a pardon. So if you're going to let people get away with it from the top, you don't think it's going to spread down the bottom? Hey, it's something you guys should have learned by COVID by now. It's that a virus spreads no matter who you are. So if you want to tackle the sickness, you better tackle it at the source, which would be at the top. But because you let the people at the top, the 1%ers, get away with it scot-free, I can't say that, you won't have other people. And I got to compliment Abba and Preach, and I will have some criticism on that in a while. But, it's a both-sided situation. You can't be saying that, we don't care. If you're an older man, you're talking to an older woman, but that's not okay. But as soon as there are parameters, like for example a Kai Cenat, we let that shit slide. Like, society has a kind of one-sided way of ruling all this shit, and we really got to be honest with ourselves. Like, where do we want this shit to go? Like, do we want to end this disease? All right, because I did the virus thing not out of a misconception. I actually want to tackle this shit all the way. But if you want to tackle this shit all the way, are we really gonna just limit it to the symptoms, or do you actually want to tackle it at the source? Because even the R. Kelly thing, right? When we talk about this pedophile shit, even the R. Kelly thing was like, yeah, but that's just you're targeting R. Kelly. Meanwhile, Epstein Island was still going on strong, and no one seemed to, and that's where what's wrong with society today. You just like sensationalism news. You like the shock factor, and unfortunately, society and the people in it are sick enough to let this shit not target the people that have the most influence and control over this shit, but you attack the byproduct. I'm not saying R. Kelly shouldn't be in jail. I'm not saying that at all. He should be locked away and thrown away the key. But if he's supposed to go down to the gates of hell for what he's done, there's a lot of other people, and some of your preferred politicians and your favorite heroes might have to get in line first, long before R. Kelly should ever see the gates of that inferno, to be honest with you. But even with the society we live in, we'd be like shock factor. Like now, we talk about P. Diddy. Meanwhile, we pretending like J-Lo and Eva Mendes and a whole bunch of Beyonce, Jay-Z, and all of these others. Like Eminem was at Epstein Island. Akon was at Epstein Island. But we don't hear no one talking about that. But you've got the whole crowd going after one symptom, but you never want to attack the source of the problem. I'm on an island right now where we were talking, because I'm a big fan of Abba Preacher, right? So I follow that pretty well. And I got to give him props. And there's some cons here and there. But, I give him some props on putting this shit to light in a major way. Because no other YouTuber was targeting this shit as much as they have been. All right? So they definitely deserve props to highlight that there's a pandemic of fucking pedophilia and child molesters out there. And especially at very hinted well, as I am on an island where, believe it or not, sex tourism is a big thing. And if I gotta put it biblically, it's also because sex tourism offers a kind of forbidden fruit, which is unfortunately the underage thing. But it works both ways, because I've seen some things that have been absolutely shocking. All right. I've been charging my phone at an airport for a while, right? And you see certain women wear certain things. Now, listen, ladies, I am the very last person to tell anyone on the planet what or what not they should be wearing. As a man, I have no business. I will say, however, that if you let your 12-year-old with curves of a fully developed 18-year-old dress like a 22-year-old Instagram thought, you cannot be mad for me looking in absolute shock. But you guys, you vultures, thanks to social media, thanks to TikTok, you garner attention in any way, shape, or form. I have seen parents literally use their children for TikTok views. And people got mad and tried to delete my comments when I say, oh, well, pedophiles coming in 3, 2, 1. Because that's exactly what you're attracting. But you guys talk about Anunnaki and all of these, but you guys been acting like one-eyed monsters. You guys have been acting like one-eyed hungry demons, doing anything forget the money, like the status. You guys are attracted to status. And I've had a debate with a lady when I said in my last video, like, yeah, how do I get famous? It's like, trust me, anyone who's in anyone who has a common sense and a brain will tell you that fame just puts a target on your back. It's not a social status, but I have seen people do horrendous things, not just for money, but for validation, to the point where I'm like, look, even when it comes to the results of it, right, which is luxury and status, I never cared about status. I've seen celebrities, like high-profile celebrities, coming by my life like they were nothing, because to me they are nothing. All right, but coming back to the pedophile thing, it's like you guys will put your children in harm's way on social media for some attention and be mad. Black people especially. All right, black people will openly talk about fuck them kids and be mad when they get fucked. Power of the tongue, ladies and gentlemen. Be careful what you say to and about your kids, because it might just actually happen. Meanwhile, I'm sitting there figuring out, well, how do I move? Because, even when the whole Drake thing happened, right? They exposed Drake as a pedo whatever, right? And I'm sitting there like, you mad that a man who makes music for teenagers is attracted to teenagers? Like, Because I know damn well Drake may be 35-year-old, but he ain't making music for 35-year-olds, I'll tell you that. Like, I even said that on my TikTok, one of them, which many got banned. But anyhow, that's besides the point. It's like, he ain't making music for 45-year-olds. He ain't Nat King Cole. All right? He ain't Chuck Berry. Like, he's not making music for, 45 plus. All right? So we got to honestly talk about it. And this is just one of many parameters that I'll be discussing. But to top this off as a part one, I will just say that child exploitation of any kind has been as popular since the invention of toys. Because the fastest way to get money out of the parents is to use their kids. And, there is, I will be the last person I say I wasn't materialistic, but I also knew the value of money early on. And one of the things it learns you, which apparently a lot of you out there haven't learned, is to prioritize your spending. You can't be, giving your kid a PlayStation of like $800, knowing damn well you only make $2,500 a month. Just to give a small example of a few. Meanwhile, you can't be mad that pedophilia cases have been popping up when you refuse to put people at the top branch of society accountable for that type of shit that they do. I don't know. It's where reality TV has given you a way of reality, and you'll have a shock value at the most, non-intensive ways whatsoever. So, that's just one of many parts that we will need to be discussing as we, get deeper and more involved into the subject, because this is a part oneer of many ones, because society has been getting away with this ass for hundreds of years. All right? Y'all got mad that they put a 15-year-old at the Olympics. Well, but that's your society. All right? And just to make a few, you guys want to boycott Disney for making bad Star Wars movie. You literally had a movie, all right, called Pocahontas that literally romanticized pedophilia. Cancel Disney for that shit. I've been saying it for years, but no one wants to do that because, oh no, it's just a Disney movie. You know the actual story behind that Pocahontas was 12 years old, and some Dutch traveler named Smith, all right, fell in love, de-virginized her, then took her back to England, and they had a whole fun with her, and she died at 16. I don't see no one boycotting Disney for that. I didn't see no one boycotting the Olympics when, oh, believe it or not, a Dutch Olympic player got to play after being convicted of raping a 12-year-old. So you see, you guys have a very limited span of how far and how actually deep and disturbing this shit goes. But you'll be mad of an R. Kelly that does this. And I'm not saying R. Kelly shouldn't be in jail. He should absolutely, definitely be in jail. But compared to Ghislaine Maxwell, who not only did it, participated, facilitated, and organized and enabled, I don't know. It seems like weird. And now you want to play P. Diddy like, oh, black men can be pedophilia too. Like, I've seen some news go by, but yeah. No one's saying anything about the Clintons. No one is saying anything about the Pelosi's. No one's saying anything about Eminem. Even, oh wow, oh, I can't believe I'm getting into this right now. Even the whole Paul Walker thing. Paul Walker was actively dating a 13-year-old. But we all want to cry and mourn because he made a good movie. Kanye West made a good album made some good albums, but when he fucks up, we hold him accountable. All right? You want to hold Michael Jackson accountable, people are still doubting if he even did it. But no, because if it's someone we like, if it's someone we hype up enough to be the good guy, we'll let shit slide. We won't even touch on that subject. But yeah, people talk about the Anunnaki, but like, you guys have been some one-eyed monsters, especially when it comes to this subject. Because when it benefits you personally, you don't care. All right? And some kids, I know some kids that are scared for their lives, and I feel for these kids, but I've also been through some cases where these kids were enabling it. They were searching for it. And you know, there have been jobs I literally had to quit because I worked at jobs where there was no age limit. All right. I was 26 at the time. All right. I'm working with 60-year-olds and I'm working with 15-year-olds at the same venue. And all I did was show this girl a Bernie Mac clip, and she was head over heels in love with me, and she showed up to my gym at one point. All right, talking about, yeah, we should hang out more and whatnot, and holding my hand and giving me sloppy, wet kisses in front of everybody, including her whole class. I went up to my boss the next day and I said, look, I got to quit. And he says, why? You're my best worker. And then I explained the situation, and then he was like, oh, I get it. Well, we hate to see you go, but I understand why you have to do it. I'll put in a good word and recommendation for you, and there I left. But yeah, this is just a giant, small summary of some of the shit that has been hit on the subject, because sex tourism, especially on the island where I live, it's a big fucking thing. All right. And unfortunately, you know, when it has with tourism, if you read the book, The Costa Rica Effect, has some deep, disturbing facts, enough of it as it is. Let alone and behold that the reason sex tourism exists, because anything that's happening in Colombia or the island that I live, or any other island or any other impoverished country, I can equate to Thailand, I can equate to Madagascar, I can equate to a lot of these places that, believe it or not, genuinely white men like to go to because they get to taste the forbidden fruit for free, or at a very small price at that. Mind you, you all talk about these immigrants, you only talk about migration and all the shit that brings. Meanwhile, in Mallorca, they had 52 rape cases in 1 year of underage minors. And these weren't by brown-looking migrants like myself. No. They were these nice, white, Christian, civilized white men. Remember them? Oh yeah, let's remember those. Remember that quote that was said during the Ukraine war? None of us forgot about that. So let's just be very clear on where we are in this subject, because you can look and blame any race on the planet, but if you look close enough in your own county, there's plenty of shit in your kitty litter. Plenty of filth under there too. So let's not make this like it's a one group type of thing, because apparently, as I watched a full documentary of Bachabazi, this shit is happening everywhere. And we just got to be very conscious of where it comes from. And there's a biblical aspect to this as well. But that's a whole other story for a whole other time, because honestly, I've been sitting on this for a month and a half. And my personal experience with this shit from both ends of the spectrum, because because wherever there's an industry to make money off, people are going to indulge in that all the way. And if we're going to be very honest about where we want this to go from here on out, either it's like, look, either we attack this shit all the way, or let's just shut the fuck about it internally, because Vosh, all right, a apparently quite popular YouTuber, got caught saying he jacks off to Lolicon, which I didn't even know was a thing. I was been out of the anime game for a while, but to jack off to provocative, pictures of anime underage characters, you've hit a new level of sick, and that guy still has a platform. So apparently we're on a very one-sided aspect of this issue. We're into sensationalism news, and that's why nothing ever gets done. This is why we are still hammering years after Columbine happened about fucking gun control, or having at least enough psychologically, availability to apprehend whether a person or not is morally capable of handling a firearm at this point of our existence, which should have been dealt with 3 to 5 years after it happened. But here we are still. So when it comes to this subject, and I wouldn't say close it off, but I want to finish this subject off with something that Dave Chappelle said. All right? Dave Chappelle said in a joke, comparing Natalee Holloway to another case, where he said, well, how old is 15 really? And here I'm entering another subject that I think we should be discussing about, because we've always used the pander. As long as I've been growing up, as long as I was a child, 10, 11 years old, I was sitting with girls with 12 years old. They already had breasts by that time. They already had hips, curves, whatever you want to call it. And the term that I always heard was, well, women mature faster than men. Okay, wouldn't it make sense then for them that they would mature in the sexuality aspect of their being as well? Because I always find it weird in American society that, yeah, you're okay to have sex when you're 18, but you can't drink alcohol until you're 21. See, these are just one of the very many aspects that people that are dumb, they want to comment on it. Oh, well, it's not the same. It's like, yeah, but we have very effed up measurements to begin with anyway. So we're going to have to really be careful about how you tackle this subject, because, if R. Kelly is supposed to get 30 years, then Ghislaine Maxwell should have gotten, by that account, 80. At the very least. Or I would have said, like, hey, you know what? Throw Ghislaine Maxwell to the men's jail. Give her 20 years at a men's jail. She did infinitely worse shit than R. Kelly when it comes to that particular subject, but we're not going to tackle that, because we have somewhat weird feeling that women are somehow less capable of evil deeds than men are. There have been plenty of police cases that will say the otherwise as well. So, it's like, how far do you want to stretch the culpability, accountability? Because one of the things society and our last generations, including my own, apparently we're very good at is to avoid accountability at all costs. At all costs, they were able to avoid accountability on whatever subject. Oh, just blame it on that guy. Oh no, blame it on that race. Oh no, blame it on that sexuality. Oh no, blame it on this guy. Blame it on that girl. That's got to stop, because that's also one of the reasons why presidencies never last. Because you expect one man to do all of it in 4 years or 8 years. Meanwhile, he's dealing with 200 or 300 people, but that's besides the point. You got to tackle it from all angles if you actually want to fix the problem. That's why the war on drugs failed, because you only acted on the dealers and not the proprietors, not the people that are actually responsible for putting it out there. As long as there is a demand, there will be something to deliver on. Same thing with the pedophilia case. As long as there is a demand, like, forget about who's distributing, who's proprieting, who's buying it. Because, Bill Clinton, he's still walking around free. Pelosi is still running around free. French people going into Madagascar and Thailand are still having their way. Sex tourism in Colombia and Latin America is still a thing. Matter of fact, oh wow, here's a shocker for you guys. You know what happens when a girl starts bleeding out in Latin America and they're from a poor environment? You know what the mom is going to say? Mom is going to say, like, hey, girl, you a woman now. And we poor. That means we not always going to have money for the bus. That means you're going to have to hitch a ride. And if that bus driver or that truck driver or that cab driver gives you a nice ride, you give him a nice ride, all right? And to top it all off, half the subjects in the porn industry, half the topics that go on there, they either come from Latin America or they all come from Eastern Europe. Because poverty creates a illusion and a demand to make more money of whatever subject you can think of. And as long as, hey, I'm going to top it off with a quote of Ice-T. Eliminate poverty and disease, and we'll start rapping about birds and trees. Because that's all what it is. Like, as much as this shit has been highlighted, it's been going on for a very long time. Matter of fact, it is so ingrained in our history, even from a religious standpoint, that you actually got to tackle on the source. But I'm not going to give you the whole thing, in one video, because it's a large subject. This is just the intro of a very large scandal, a very large epidemic. That might be the pandemic worse than the thing we called the pandemic back on October of 2019, when we said, like, oh, this virus is going to eliminate everybody. This virus is going to destroy a lot of lives. And it's a lot of future generations that will be affected. Because even on this island where I live now, there have been no shortage of predators. And I've seen them all shapes, all sizes, all colors. So you're not going to pretend that, oh, this one race is particular to blame. Because we tend to keep really quiet when it's our own people, And I'm mixed race, so I'm like, I have really no stake in this. This is really my last attempt into providing a service for humanity, as long as there is a humanity to serve. Because I'm telling you, this might be, hey, after I'm done with this subject, this might be my first, this might be my last video, who knows? But all I know is I've done my part. Because a lot of these victims never get the help, they never get the respect, they never get the, oh, They don't get the, oh, you're brave. You get, no, 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 no. Shh, keep quiet about this subject. You know, you shouldn't be speaking on it. No, 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 no. Just keep quiet. Just keep quiet. And you know, now when we're on the subject of this anyway, if you want to get to the religious aspect, and a lot of people might hate me for this as well, but in religion as well, all right, you might talk about there's an epidemic on the LGBTQs. Well, the Vatican is responsible for a lot of that shit. But instead of holding them accountable, oh no, you keep them safe, locked away in the Vatican to escape accountability and justice. For all those victims that you made insecure, suicidal, and made more criminal and more likely to engage in this shit because they were the victims prior to the perpetrators that you still hide away because they believe in the right religious team. And if I am going to continue a series on this, it will be for those who especially care about their children. Because part of the disturbing reason of this all is that there are people who just do not care about their children. That's the family where I'm from. All right? My parents didn't see me as nothing but an easy cash grab. And I've been exposed to a lot of this shit. Like the bachabazi is just the beginning. Even around here in Latin America, you know, they hold the term maricón or, you know, gay or the F word, you know, against gays a lot of around here. Meanwhile, they're engaging in that shit more than the actual gays are. You know, so... And part of the reason I'm making this video also is because, you know, I have seen that now that I'm kind of finally free of my trauma, that a lot of people just saw a wounded animal and didn't care, didn't bother. All they saw was, oh, there's a person we can take advantage of. There's a person we can, you know, get our way with for our own personal needs. So now that I'm not of that part, now that I'm not of that subject anymore, oh, it becomes less attractive. So there are real demons out there, people, but they're not, like I said, they're not in horns. And some people that have highlighted it, and I'm not saying a specific name, I'm not saying Adam Preach, they also highlight a lot of shit, but I noticed some inconsistencies, and I'm going to talk about that in another video. But part of the reason being is, if you care about your children, stick around. Because there's a lot of things I noticed over the years. And I'll put some of my stuff out there too, because meanwhile, in the society, when I'm just starting to figure out shit, hey, I effed up too on some occasions, alright? Because to me, there was no age limit. And I fucked up plenty times of trying to say something jokey, and it came around as flirty. And back at the time, me, I'm just having fun with my 9-to-5 job. I didn't know the difference. Meanwhile, not knowing that you're hooking 17-year-olds into liking you. I effed up on that too. But back then, there was a different subject. Because when it comes to exploring your own personal trauma, you don't know how deep the rabbit hole goes. You just don't. And looking back at some of the stuff that I did back then, or some of the stuff I said back then, it's like, oh, yeah, I wouldn't have done that at that, knowing what I know now. But the problem is you don't know. You know, that's also the thing. Like, for example, the Kai Cenat thing. If you say something in a chat and it may come off as flirty no matter what, and you don't know, you're in the entertaining mode, you're just entertaining. But you don't know what... When you're too free-flowing, which is why, you know, I'm making this video right now, is also because, look, there are some boundaries and some, you know, there are some limits we have to make to our creative expression. Because NWA made it real cool to say, express yourself. Yeah, but when your form of expression affects other people, we got to look out for what we say and what we do. And we got to hold ourselves accountable. For example, I'm not mad at Sexy Red saying the stuff she does, and I'm not mad at people listening to it. Me, I was mad that when you hear 5-year-olds saying that shit, like, hey, you know what, you should have said something. Hey, yeah, I know y'all liking my music, but little kids don't need to be listening to that. Is one of many. And I was 1.5 months without a phone, so I got to think really carefully about what kind of content I want to make, what I want to influence in and as, and what I'm actually indulging by, putting some of the stuff out there, because it's easy for people to get the wrong idea. It's easy for people, excuse me, that energy drink and beer combination hit different. But anyhow, it's easy for people to get the wrong idea. It's easy for people to take one thing and be like, "Oh wow, no, that's not allowed." Like, there have been infinitely worse things done on the YouTube. For example, the Island Boys kissing, making out. That shit still has not been taken down on YouTube. No one got flagged for it. No one got punished for it. So there's one of the many things that I'm hinting at and saying in the YouTube spectrum. Like, we really need to be more careful about what we're indulging in and what we're putting out there, because reality TV and Jersey Shore and Real Housewives of whatever, Kardashians if you want to call it, but we've all been real comfortable with letting the wildest shit slide, and anything that goes kinda against it or the other way around or in intermediate fashion, we tend to shut down. Because let's be honest, we all like our degeneracy. And this is just one degenerate form, and especially when I figured out from personal experience tackling this subject, it's been kind of both ways. Look, I'll give you an example, right? I'm with my girlfriend, a then girlfriend at the time. I pull up at the family function, her family function. Grandma turned 90 in 98, it was a big deal. So we all had a party. She playing with the kids, everyone's kids, she knows everyone. I'm talking with pretty much anyone who wants to talk to me. One of them happened to be her cousin. Me, I'm not thinking anything of it, I'm sitting, just talking. Mind you, this girl was 16 at the time. But I'm not thinking anything of it. Just talking extensively. We talk about life, we talk about school, we talk about, hey, some of the things. Because dare I say, a child mind, I remember what I was like when I was a kid. I remember all the insecurities. I remember all the things I was struggling with. So we kind of exchanged some knowledge. That's it. As far as I can describe it. Then I go out, I hit the skins with my girlfriend at the mama's house, but she indulges, so I'm like, okay, hey, don't matter there. As soon as we done though, she said, yeah, I was kind of, it kind of weirds me out to say it. This is what she said, right? It kind of weirds me out to say this, but I was like kind of jealous when you were talking to her. It was like, oh. I was just talking, like there's nothing going on as far as I'm concerned, because mind you, I'm 26, 27 at the time. She's 16, like besides talking, nothing going on my side, I can assure you there. But women's intuition, I'll tell you sometimes, don't fuck with that shit, fellas. Guys, do not fuck with women's intuition, because sometimes they're really spot on. And even though I'm a male with like feminine energy, as you want to call it, I was shocked to wake up to the next day and I have an Instagram follow request, and it happened to be her, this girl I was talking about. Ultimately, my Instagram got shut down like 2 days after for some other, so I never got to accept it, or I never, indulged in it after. But some shocking shit sometimes. It's shocking sometimes. And like I said, even around the workplace where I worked with everybody, I fucked up sometimes, flirtatiously, while simultaneously not wanting to be flirtatious, because you think of it as a joke. There's been plenty of things I said jokingly, and most of the times, 8 times out of 10, it never got the wrong way, or you just shrugged off. But you learn as you grow. And looking back at some of this stuff that even before because I've had a lot of time to think about all of this shit. So I'm thinking like, yeah, there's some things that just should have, and especially now because like I've seen some things happening. I've been living on this island for about a year now, and I've seen some things happen where I'm like, hey, y'all's getting out of control. You know, not just the adults, but the teenagers as well. And like I said, it's easy to make this a one-sided issue, but I decided to make this a one-off as of now because, like I said, I had at least 13 hours planned to talk about this shit. And that's honestly the type of time I don't have. It's obviously the type of things that I don't want to indulge in for too long because I also know I've been kicked out of society pretty much for being able to live and being able to talk to anyone, no matter the age, gap, or no matter the background or whatever. So, you know, I kind of take these videos, these 13-part videos I want to make as my last bastion of humanity, and afterwards I'm just going to live my life and I give a fuck who anyone, because y'all just some degenerate beings. But that's like, again, this is a video for a whole other time, but the point being is more than just a one-sided situation. It's more than just a male-validated situation, because we haven't talked about any of the women, and there have been plenty of women who indulge in that shit as well. But we don't say this because we always think it's the men who, are engaging in this shit. But anyhow, the sun's going down. I feel all the alcohol and fucking energy drink caffeine that I've been drinking is kind of kicking in all sorts of wrong ways. So, yeah. The last thing that I will say about the subject is, we got to hold ourselves accountable, not just for what we say or what we do, because even in Spanish culture, right? Because I'm in an island on Spain, right? Excuse me. And you hear some of these children, you see some of these children dancing on the YouTube videos, and you hear the parents saying like, yeah, we shouldn't sexualize our children like this and what, but it was okay for y'all to grape indigenous women when y'all first arrived in South America. So we're not gonna sit here. Y'all think about Saudi Arabia. Look, I woke up to a story, and that's probably the last thing I'll say about the entire subject for now. I woke up one day, the newspaper was there, right? I was in the Netherlands at the time, and a 6-year-old got raped by her neighbor, who was 36. This man also happened to be a police officer. Like I said, this conversation, this thing is a lot more complex. It's not a one-sided thing because like I said, we're targeting celebrities, we're targeting YouTube stars, we're targeting musicians and whatnot. But this shit been going on for a very long time. Mind you, this thing I talked about was in 2004. This shit been going on for a very long time. 40,000 indigenous women and children get kidnapped every year. Never get reported, never get searched, none of that. Alright? Meanwhile, during the pandemic, they dug up 10,000 bodies of children who were abused, beaten, malnourished, all of that. So like I said, a lot of the shit is buried. And just like the dinosaurs, I bet we'll be rewriting a lot of history, because this shit been going on for a very long time. I'm surprised if you look at a church or a government building, what they might dig up next. So like I said, this is a very complex issue. This is not going to be solved one day or another. And like I said, I'm kind of in the mix right now because like I said, I was without a phone for a month and a half. I had to wait. I had to wait it out. I got to really carefully think about this subject and everything I want to say. I got to be very conscious about Because before my phone went dead, I was very active on making this a race thing, but guess what? They're kidnapping and molesting white babies too. And as much as I've over the years, I grow to loathe white people. As a mixed race person myself, born of a white dad, who my white dad molested me as well, who later I figured out wasn't even my dad, but my stepbrother, because I figured out my granddad was my actual dad. So yeah, like I said, I have a lot to say on this subject, but this is just a quick, very quick 1 hour where I'm just letting you know where this 13 episode series finna go. Because even on this island that I've been here for a year, I've seen a lot of it. Sex tourism, biblical shit, forbidden fruit, whatever you want to call it, whatever you want to place it all has its origin in one place. Is that, and also the indulgence of people that just want to do things that you shouldn't do. Easy enough, sum it up way to say it. If only it were that simple. The solutions are very simple, but it has to come from the top branch, and even the top branch of government is not to be trusted because we all know they're not running shit. We all know they're absolutely not running shit. All right. It's absolutely the man or woman with the most money to pay and the most money to sweep everything under the rug, because we're in a society that doesn't like to solve problems. We like to get rid of problems. We like to bury problems so we don't look at them. But this problem is not going away. Not anytime soon. And like I said, that thing I talked about when, little girls start bleeding in the poor countries and they don't have enough money to hitch a ride. So there you go. That's just one of society's many things, and if you want to tackle that correctly, they got to start from the top branch. Because I don't see people putting RICO cases out on that. And one of the subjects where I will say the Ab and Preach show did very well was target sex tourism. Because you talking about in Colombia, meanwhile that shit been happening in Thailand and Indonesia and the Philippines and all that shit, but that didn't got reported on. Because that's business as usual. Oh, you go over there to do that shit. Then you want minors to change their sex to be more available to whom? To whom? Like I said, just the many subjects of things that might be going on. But like I said, it's a very large subject. And we're going to have to be really honest here about where we want this to go. We're going to have to be really honest that, hey, you want to solve this problem? Solve it all the way. Because one thing you don't do is do like you did the drug thing. Oh, we have a war on drugs. We have a war on terrorism. Well, we all know how that went. Didn't solve shit at the end of the day. Guys just let, we solve it over here. We let that mess go on because this benefits to us, because we either get a bigger drug bust or we get a bigger paycheck. Some of the guys are double dealing. Some of the guys are like, look, tackle it all the way or don't tackle it at all. Very simple thing. Very simple subject to tackle it all. So, yeah. I've been on the 48, so, I kind of want to leave it at this. Because I wanted to be actually focused, because I was prepared to make this shit public a month and a half ago, and then all of a sudden, all of my technology started failing, and then all of the things that could go wrong went wrong, but I didn't hassle, I didn't make a drama. I said, like, you know what, I'm just going to take my time to do the last bit of work I have to do, because when I do this, I'm going to do it right. And even now I say, as I take all this shit from the top of my head, it hasn't been a good start. Because I tell you, when you put a RICO case out on Hollywood and all of these musicians and all of these celebrities, I don't think there will be many celebrities for you to worship left. And even that has outstayed its welcome. It's lost its luster. Because there are a lot of people, they look for celebrities to have all the answers and anything. Especially look, I love my Italians. There's people are working on the celebrity thing, they still have all the answers for you. But celebrities are not gods. All right? You treat them like gods, and when they find out they do things that, some of the sickos that think they're gods. Meryl Streep called Harvey Weinstein a god. Well, there you go. So you guys got to be very careful about who you worship. Because everybody got skeletons in their closet. And as I go on in this story, this journey about this particular subject, I have plenty of skeletons in my closet. All right? Plenty of things I've thought about on this subject that I've said and done. Not physically, but, the innuendos and stuff that as you didn't know, you grow and learn. But I look back at it now and say, hey, that shouldn't have. Yeah, looking back, I might have changed that a bit, would have saved a lot. But, you live a life, you want to be conscious of it. But I would say until the 13 episode thing is finished, at least wait a bit until the episodes are finished for judgment to be reserved.